Hi, my name is Megan, and we are going to do a core class today. So all you'll need, if you have one, is a squish ball, and if you don't need a thing. You can just set it aside. This class is all levels, so any body can do it. You just need a little bit of space to move, maybe a mat, and some curiosity. So our goal is going to be to try to have fun and push through some challenges and see what happens on the other side. So you can start laying down and just keep your prop nearby if you have it. And we'll start on our backs. So you can find your knees bent, bring your feet flat to the mat, and just let yourself land here for a moment. If you're comfortable with your hands somewhere on your torso, you can do that. Or you can extend them down by your side, or maybe even open wide to a V or a T shape. I like to keep my palms up so that I keep width across my collarbones and feel openness through the heart space. A little more receptive to all of the invitations to move that are coming our way. If eyes closed feels comfortable for you, you can gently close your eyelids now. Or just keep your gaze soft and unfocused. Try to remove any effort from your body. So if it helps, you can bring your feet a little wider, knock your knees to center, and kind of let your knees support each other so that your legs don't have to do any work to stay upright. And if you're a lot more comfortable with your legs outstretched, you can also try that. And we'll start with just a little bit of awareness, some curiosity around the breath. So just letting your natural breath flow in through the nose and out through the mouth without trying to change or alter anything. Just noticing the path it follows, how it feels. If there are spots that feel sticky, or if you have ease and calm through your breath. And we start with the breath partly to gain awareness of what we're working with and run a little diagnostics on our own selves. And partly also as a tool to calm yourself, to bring your nervous system to a nice, quiet state so that we're a little more receptive to everything that we ask our bodies to do over the next 45 minutes. Maybe you start to bring a little more intention to your inhale, directing it all the way down towards the center of your body, filling your torso, and then exhaling really easily out through the mouth. So just a little longer on the inhale and on the exhale. And if you have your hands outstretched, you can start to wiggle your fingers, and if they're somewhere on your torso, maybe just kind of feeling with the finger pads and waking up the tips of the fingers. Maybe turn that into a little movement in your wrist. And then if you did have your legs outstretched, we'll all come to find our knees bent with our feet flat on the floor. And at this point, we can all take our arms down by our sides with the palms facing up, keeping the back of the neck really long, so feeling like there's a little tuck of your chin towards your chest. And then start to feel the back of your body. Notice what is anchoring you down to the floor, what is helping you stay grounded to the mat. So feel the soles of the feet, wiggle your toes. And then start to wake up the lower portion of your torso. So feel that natural kind of curvature of your spine. It'll be different for everyone, but maybe there's a little lift in your low back. And if you take your two front hip bones, your ASIS, and tilt them up towards your navel so that you're also kind of tucking your sits bones towards your knees, you'll feel your low back connect to the floor. We're going to call this imprint for the sake of simplicity in class. And then roll back towards what we'll call your neutral spine. And play around with that shape a few times. So tucking your sits bones up towards your knees and feeling your low back connect to the mat. And then rolling back, and you can even take your hands to your two front hip bones and feel the tilt of your pelvis. Your pelvis is shaped kind of like a bowl, so picture that you're spilling the contents of it up towards your navel, and then rolling back to tip it back to be sort of flat. Do that again 2 more times. You can start to pair your breath with movement right here. So an inhale towards neutral, and then exhale out through the mouth, almost like you're blowing through a straw or trying to blow out a candle. So there's a little more intention, a little more attention on your exhale. And next time you're in neutral, we'll pause there. So natural curvature through your spine. You can take your hands down by your side, reach your arms right up over your shoulders so they're up towards the ceiling, and almost like you're trying to reach for something right above your chest, feel the shoulder blades press apart, and then pull the arms back down and in. And do that 2 more times, just kind of gliding your shoulder blades away from each other, and then sliding them back together 1 more. Plugging the arms into the shoulder sockets, take the hands all the way back behind your head. You only have one, I assume. And if your ribs kind of open or flare up, let them. That's okay. And then take it up and back down by your side. So your arms are moving through this sagittal plane, this over and in front of your body plane of movement. You can do that a few times. Start to pay attention to any shifts in your spine, anything that changes as you move your shoulders, and wake up those joints. Go 1 more time, and when you get to the space above your head this time, bend the elbows, circle the arms down along the floor like a snow angel, and then circle them up over your chest again and back behind your head. We're gonna do that 2 more times just to kind of open up the shoulders. This really is just meant to feel good. So 1 more. And then reach the arms up and back behind your head. Find a big, wide bend in the elbows. Interlace your fingers and make a little basket or a cradle for the back of your skull. And then take a nice, long inhale here through the nose. On your exhale this time, we're going to float up into your first curl. So notice where you lift from. If you feel yourself kind of like pigeon or chickening your head forward, try to keep a little tuck in your chin. Let your head be heavy in your hands and lift from your heart space, from the collarbone or the sternum. And then really gently resist your way back down to the floor. We're going to do that again 3 more times really slow. Big inhale on the floor. Exhale, lift yourself up. Feel the tips of the shoulder blades kind of lifting up off the mat. And then lengthen yourself back down. The way down can be just as much work as the way up. So exhale, lift yourself up again. We'll do 1 more like this, and then pick up the tempo just a little bit. So lift yourself up, hold at the top, and find a little pulse up and back. Just an inch or so in space. Tiny little movements. They're usually the hardest ones. Go 4 more, and 3. 2, and then hold it lifted, pause at the very top. Float your right leg up into a tabletop position, so your knee is stacked right over your hip, and then find a little flex of your foot, like your toes are pulling in towards your knee. Melt your low back into the floor, find your imprint from earlier, and then extend your left leg long, hover it just an inch or 2 off the mat. This might already be a lot of work. Maybe there's a little turbulence happening right in the center of your body. If you want to go a little farther, take your right hand to your right quad, the front of your right thigh, and resist your hand into your leg. Whoo, it's shaky. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Pull your left leg in. Catch the back of your head in your hands. Melt your head down to the floor. Take a breath here. Full exhale out the mouth. And then 1 more time, breathe in through the nose. Exhale, lift yourself up. If you lost your imprint, try to connect it back in and lengthen your right leg out to a hover this time. So left leg stays in tabletop. Both feet are flexed, active through the legs. And then if you want to go a little deeper, take your left hand to your left thigh and press the leg away, but resist that pressure back into your hand with your leg. Stay here for 4, 3, 2, and 1. Both legs into tabletop. Catch the head in the hands, and then slowly lower down and down, then lift back up and up. So upper body only at this point. Exhale, lift, lift, lower, and lower. We go 3 more times like this. Back and back for 2. Last one, we'll hold at the top. Stay here and pause. Glue the legs together. So find like a little pressure through the inner thighs, the ankles, and then reach your arms around to the outsides of your shins. And then if you feel yourself holding tension in your jaw, in your neck, think like stick out the tongue, make a funny face, maybe even roll your head side to side a couple of times, and then extend the legs out any amount that you can and pull them back in. Do that again 2 more times. Whew, exhale, reach long. Pull back to tabletop 1 more time, and then we'll add another step onto this. So arms this time are going to reach back behind you. Right back behind your head, and then back to the sides of your shins. Try to keep everything in your upper body still. And releasing any unnecessary holding through the jaw, through the face. Hold here. We're going to put that all together 3 times. So legs and arms, same time, reach out. And then reach it back in, contract. Curl or extend, that is, out, and then curl yourself back in. Last one, hold it all extended, pause. And then reach your arms down by your side. Turn your toes out, heels together. Pull the knees in towards your hips. So knees bend, heels in, and press yourself away. Do that 2 more times. Last one. Extend the legs, catch the head in the hands, bend the knees to tabletop, lower your head to the floor. 1 foot at a time finds the mat. Take a couple of big breaths here. You can kind of windshield wiper your legs side to side, take your arms out wide. And then if you have one, locate your squish ball. We're going to roll off to one side and wedge the ball right between your shoulder blades. So you'll have to find your sweet spot. It's a little different for each of us. But like bottom tips of your shoulder blades is a good standard landmark. What you want to try to find is, even with this ball here, if you take your hands to a triangle, like right on the front of your kind of pelvis, you want to be able to feel like your pubic bone and the 2 hip bones are still level. So you're not tilting pubic bone higher than hip bones or vice versa. So a nice level pelvis, and then reach your hands behind your head. Take a nice big inhale here, and then melt yourself back over the ball and feel everything open up. That's really nice after all that activation and forward flexion. We spend a lot of time leading with our heads, so this is just a brief moment where you get to have your heart higher than your head. So take another big breath in through your nose here, and then exhale, tuck your chin to your chest, roll up. You have a little farther to travel this time. When you get to the top, hold, and we're going to half that movement. So inhale back, exhale lift. Simple as that, but let your head hang heavy in your hands. Maybe try to catch your elbows in your peripheral vision. And notice what's happening in the lower half of your torso and your pelvis. Try to stabilize that whole section of your body. So you can move through the upper half of your torso without rocking side to side or destabilizing the pelvis. Go 2. Then last one, we'll hold at the top, pause here. Get a little lighter on your toes, like tippy toes, make it kind of fancy and sneaky. And then pull your right leg up to tabletop and melt it back down just as slow. Left leg up and down. So we start to find tempo, we start to find rhythm, and let that help you through this movement. So you pair your breath to the movement, but you also find yourself kind of moving to the music. And maybe that makes it feel a little more like you're dancing and a little less like you're doing a core class right now. 4 more. For 3. Last 2, we're going to layer on here. So you're going to curl up towards your knee as it lifts with your upper body. Lift and then halfway back over the ball. So everything's kind of folding in like an accordion, and maybe you notice it gets a little harder to stabilize the pelvis as you start to lift one leg away from the floor and shift your weight side to side. So what can you do to stabilize? We'll try to keep your level pelvis, that triangle that we found early on in this sequence, but also think about lifting right through center line. Like lift from your sternum, like you're trying to move up towards the space right between your knees. Go 4 and 3, and if you've forgotten to keep breathing, exhale up, inhale back. Last one, hold it lifted. Melt your tailbone under like you're trying to imprint your low back, and then float your left leg up to meet your right leg, so both your legs are up in tabletop. So already we're really wobbly here. So try to keep a little stability and dip your right toe down to the floor and pull it back up. So it's moving from the hip joint rather than the knee. So think like your leg is stuck in that position, in that 90-degree bend, and you move your thigh away from you as you dip your toe down. And it's just a little tap, like you're testing a bathtub, but it's too hot. Hold on. 2 more. Last one. Hold at the top, pause. Reach both arms around to the outsides of your shins, and then reach out wide with the arms and legs. Curl it back in, and then roll yourself up. If you had a ball, just remove it, and slowly make your way back down to the floor. We find that same familiar little cradle for the back of our skull. Bend the knees in again, find your feet flat on the mat, and then float your right leg to tabletop, melt your low back into the floor. Left leg floats up. The last piece of this puzzle is lifting your torso. So big inhale through the nose, exhale, come up. We're gonna rotate a little bit. So we're gonna start with the right leg. Reach it long, in, long, in. So like you're trying to press a button with your toe. Like point the toe, make this as fancy and dainty as you can, knowing that there's nothing dainty about what we're about to do to our obliques. Go for 4, 3, 2, then we're gonna add rotation to the left. So as your leg reaches, you twist towards the left thigh. And you're moving from your shoulder, like shoulder to hip rather than elbow to knee. Like you could wrap your ribs around your spine. 4, 3, 2, and then we'll pause after this next one, hold in center. Restabilize yourself, feel your anchor points on the floor, take it to the left leg, reach it out and in, out and in. So you're fully extending your leg and trying to make this really specific, like you're trying to hit the same spot each time. Go 4 more, then we twist. 3, 2, this time we twist to the right, shoulder to hip, up and back. You got it. So rotating ribs around spine. Try to lift your shoulder off the mat. Go for 4, 3, last 2, 1, hold in center, breathe, and then lower your head down to the floor. Take 1 foot at a time back down to the mat. Release your head from your hands and take your hands down by your side. Take a few breaths here. You can release your imprint, find your neutral spine. So take a second and check in with yourself. Maybe you place your hands somewhere on your torso that feels nice and comforting for you. Find a long neck again, so a little tuck of your chin, and move back into that kind of effortless space. So we flow from the high energy, the challenges, into a space where we get to check in with ourselves and reconnect. Find the why of why you're here, and also offer yourself a moment of like softness and tenderness if anything about that felt challenging. Take 1 more full breath in here. And really let it go out the mouth. And then roll yourself, arms out to a T, off onto one side of your body. So you can start on your left side, stack your hips, stack your ankles and your knees with your knees bent. And then you're gonna take your right fingertips and trace a circle above your head until you open out onto the opposite shoulder blade. And maybe it doesn't touch the floor, that's okay. But we're gonna try to keep the hips stacked. And then you can just round yourself, rolling back so your palms touch again on the floor. And we'll start that again. Reach up, kind of trace a circle above you, and then open up so your arms find a T shape. And then again, rolling back through center, open palms together, and then reach up to open the shoulders, open the chest. This time you can roll yourself onto your back, and I'm gonna turn away from you for a moment, but you're gonna roll onto your right side, and we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So maybe you'll get a different angle this time. Stack hips, knees, feet, and trace a circle above you. Open out to the side, so you're in a spinal rotation, and then you can roll yourself back over. Do that 2 more times, open everything up. And then round back over, last one. Finding your palms together, roll back onto your back, take your palms right above your chest. So your arms are reaching up towards the ceiling, palms together, knees bent. Keep your fingertips aligned and your elbows straight, and just shift your fingers like a little dial over to the left a couple inches, and then back through center, over to the right. See if you can keep your hips still through this. 1 more time in each direction, just mobilizing your T-spine, that space that's kind of right between your shoulder blades and along your ribs. Back to center, arms down by your side. So you can scoot your heels in a little closer to you if you like, if that's comfortable for you. We're going to play one more time with that shape in your pelvis again, or that tilt in your pelvis again. So start in your neutral spine, and then tilt your sits bones up towards your knees, and then think like you're trying to keep that movement going. So you start to peel yourself up off of the mat. We're going to do this slowly 3 times total, and then we're going to move a little quicker. So from the top of your spine, you can bone by bone bring yourself back down. So you'll find your imprint and then roll past it to your neutral spine again, that little lift. And again, tuck under, press up, peel your spine up off the floor. Feel the glutes start to engage. So now we start to really work with the back of the body. We've been in flexion a lot. So try to counter that. Stretch out the hips, engage the glutes, press up, let your ribs open, and then bone by bone, vertebra by vertebra, we massage it back down to the floor. We'll do one more slow. Pressing the low back into the mat, peeling up mid-back, ribs, all the way up to the shoulder blades. And then just this time, the ribs are going to come back down. So you stay lifted through the hips, and we find ourselves here in a shoulder bridge. And if you feel steady and you feel good, you can take your arms right up over your shoulders and kind of reduce your base of support. Keep the arms plugged in. Right away, your glutes really have to turn on to hold you here. And then imagine you're holding like a really precious, really fragile, like glass ball between your knees that you need to keep there but not break. So you've got a little bit of engagement through your inner thighs, but there's not like a squeeze or anything crazy. We're going to dip the hips halfway down to the floor and then press up. So this all happens from your glutes, and you might kind of feel it in that, what people love to call your smile line, right where your hamstrings and your glutes kind of meet, where your leg and your bum is. So press to the top and think about expanding through the front of your hips every time. And notice if your ribs start to move with you. So if you feel yourself kind of popping up through the ribs, try to keep them low and heavy on the floor so that this stays in the lower half of your body. Go 3. 2 more times. Press up. The last one, hold it lifted at the very top. We're going to lift the heels up off the floor and then melt back down. Hello, calves. 2 more times. Lift and lower, then hold it lifted and find the same little dip in your hips. Dip down and up, low and high. And your hands can just stay right where they are. And if they're down by your side for support, that's good too. 4 more. Last 3, 2, and then we'll hold at the very top of the next one. Slowly, with resistance, bring your heels to the mat. Shift your weight, that is, into your right foot. And just lift your left heel up off the floor a little bit. And then lower it back down, shift your weight into your right. So we're not quite hovering anything off the floor. Just playing around with the shift in weight. Keep shifting side to side. And notice what activates. If you can feel the opposite side, kind of, or the supporting side, lighting up to hold you there. Go 1 more on each side. Just shifting your weight, getting lighter on the opposite foot. And then if your hands are lifted, take them down by your side. Keep your glutes engaged, ribs heavy. Shift your weight into your right foot. Maybe hover your left. And if you feel comfortable, take it all the way up to a tabletop. Trying to keep your hip bones level in the front so pelvis stays straight. Bring it back down to the floor. Shift your weight into your left foot. Hover the right. And maybe you play with bringing it up to tabletop. If this feels comfortable for you, you can pick that up a little bit. Otherwise, just keep with the weight transfer side to side. So we're keeping the hips lifted, keeping the ribs heavy, trying to lighten up on the holding through the neck and the jaw. So we can work really hard where we need to work and soften in the spaces where we don't. Last 2. Last one, both feet on the floor. Kind of reset your hips, reset your ribs, because they tend to want to adjust with you. And then let your ribs come up and roll yourself down. Bone by bone by bone. And hug your knees into your chest. We're going to find like a little rock and roll the length of the spine. Just 2 or 3 times. And then on the last one, cross your ankles, plant your hands. We're going to find a tabletop position where your shoulders are stacked over your wrists and your hips are stacked over your knees. And then shift your hips back towards your heels for a moment, like almost into a child's pose. And notice where your elbow creases face naturally. We're going to wrap the bicep around so that they face forward. So you want to find like the inside of your elbow forward. And then find a little tap of your index finger. And you can keep all the other fingers glued to the mat. Keep the inside of the elbow facing forward. There's so many little things to think about. And then shift your shoulders over your wrists. Try to keep tapping your finger. So you can keep your shoulder blades pressed apart. Try to keep a flat back. And if these are too many things to think about, then just smile and tap your index finger. Shift your hips back towards your heels. Everything else stays glued to the mat, just your middle finger. Same thing, shift forward, stay here, shoulders over wrists. Try to press the shoulder blades apart. Keep your elbows straight. Stay 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then shift it back right into your ring finger. We'll take it forward again. If you can't find a lift, you can find a wiggle, or you can just visualize your ring finger moving. Sometimes that's what's happening for me. 4, 3, 2, then stay where you are. Thumb and pinky finger same time, little hang 10. This goes with that surfer song we were playing with earlier in those rotations. For 4, 3, 2, and 1, and then the whole heel of your hand and your thumb can lift up, and maybe you find all the like Rice Krispies in your knuckles right now. Little crinkles and crackles. Last one. Your whole palm will find the floor, and then imagine like you're saving like this very precious gem or a pomegranate seed under your palm, and press your finger pads into the floor and feel your palms kind of have a little lift in them. And then you're just going to take your toes, curl them under, and find a hover through your knees. So you're going to need all that core work we just did to hold you here. Hover your knees off the mat. Stay here for a moment. Notice if you've kind of dipped down through your shoulder blades. Keep them pressed apart. Keep the elbow creases facing forward, collarbone wide. Then bring your knees back to the floor. Untuck the toes. Press it back, hips to heels. We'll do that again. Shift your weight forward. Feel your shoulders right over your wrists. Measure your body so your hips are over your knees. Curl your toes under, hover your knees. Just a couple inches off the floor, like you're levitating. And then back down and shift back. We're going to do that one more time. So shoulders over wrists, curl your toes, hover your knees, stay here for a moment, and then play again with weight transfer. If it's there for you, you can hover your left toes off the floor. Bring them back down and then play with the right side. And notice if there's a difference. Notice what needs to activate, what braces, and what you can soften. Maybe the space between your eyebrows, maybe your breath. One more on each side. And then bringing both toes to the floor, both knees to the floor. Untuck your toes. Reach your right fingertips forward and your left toes back. Level your pelvis and float both limbs up to body height. Try to keep your neck long so your gaze stays down beside your hand. And then challenge your center line. Open out to a diagonal line. So arm right, leg left. Take it back into center. And then this time, elbow to knee underneath you. And reach it back out long. Open out wide. And center. And then underneath and open. We'll do that 2 more times. Wide to a diagonal. Back to center line. Pay attention again to your pelvis. Notice where it's sitting. If you can level off your hips. And if you can keep a long spine. Bring your hand to the floor, knee to the floor, left arm, right leg. Up to body height, long spine, level hips. Challenge the oblique line, open wide, back to center. Curl under and out. Wide and center. So it's really not about how far out to the side you get. It's more about trying to stabilize the center of yourself when other things are in motion. And if that's not like a key to life, then I don't really know. One more time. Open wide, center, under, open. Bring your hand to the floor, knee to the floor. Press your shoulder blades apart. Tuck your tail and gaze towards your navel. And then start from the base of your spine. Lift your sits bones up high. Let your heart shine forward and shoulder blades squeeze together. Find neutral somewhere in between. And then step your right foot back and then your left. So we'll find ourselves in tall plank together. There's a lot to think about here. The first thing I want you to think about is the feeling of resisting gravity. So your whole body kind of has to work, and there's lots of little cues I can give you, but start by feeling that pull down and notice what you need to do to resist the pull. So maybe you start with your fingers spread wide and like you're trying to push the mat away from you. Feel the elbow creases face forward so that there's space across your collarbones, and that space under your armpit is active. Almost like you're trying to magnetically pull your hands back towards your feet without moving anything. And then shift your hips up high. Find a downward dog or a pike or an inverted V, and let your heels sink down towards the floor, sits bones high. And let yourself catch your breath here. Let your head hang heavy. Release any pressure through the space between your eyebrows. We're going to come up onto the balls of the feet and let that initiate a ripple forward through your spine into a tall plank again. When you get there, feel the back of the body this time. Press the shoulder blades apart. Engage the glutes. Try to press your quads away from the floor and then shift it back again. So hips high, head heavy. We'll do that one more time. Rise up onto your toes, ripple forward, hold in a plank. And then we dance through climbers, so have a little fun. Right knee up and back, then left and back. So you can take it out to the side or straight through center or combine the two. But really try to pair your breath with this and stay quiet and have a little fun. Forward and back. Exhale, inhale. Maybe you even feel the corners of your mouth turn up a little. Can you love planking? Go 4 more. And 3. Last 2. We go 1 more time, then hold here. Send your hips high. Last time, down dog. Pedal out the feet this time. Stretch the backs of the legs a little bit. Wiggle the hips. Let the head hang heavy. Last time, heels down, rise up onto your toes, ripple forward, and we're going to take it all the way to the mat. So if you want to take your knees down, you can, or you can lower yourself from plank to the floor. When you get here, take your hands underneath your forehead. So make a little pillow with your hands. Then extend your legs out to a V shape behind you, and just let yourself land here. So you've got all these new anchor points, this whole new relationship to gravity. Feel yourself connecting to the floor, to the ground. And then notice where your breath is living. Sometimes we breathe into the space that we feel we have. So when you're on your back, we'll breathe more into the front of the body and vice versa. So see if you can find a 3-dimensional breath. Like feel the feedback of your front ribs into the mat. Feel your side ribs expanding out. And feel the back of the body breathing into all that space above you, all that potential. And then notice what's anchoring you to the floor. Feel the tops of your feet. Feel the front of your thighs, the pelvis, the ribs. And then your hands and your head heavy on your hands. Tuck, that is, your right toes under. And then lift the quad and the knee away from the floor, keeping your toes on the mat. Release your quad, release your knee, untuck your toes, and move over to the left, same thing. Tuck the toes, hover the leg, lower it back down, and we'll add on to that. So right toes tuck under. Quad lifts up off the floor, and then you hover your foot as well. Feel both hip bones equally weighted into the mat. So you'll start to feel like a little engagement through the glutes, and then lower your toes, release the quads, untuck your toes. Left side, toes curl under, hover the quad up off the floor, then hover the leg. So the toes come up off the mat. Bring it back down to the mat, release the quad, untuck the toes. Both feet this time, tuck the toes under. Lift the quads up off the floor, feel the glutes engage, and then notice where your core is at. So you know what engagement feels like after all that work. So try to find that feeling like you're wringing out a sponge in the middle of your body. And then hover your toes off the floor. And then you can play around a little. Point your toes, flex your feet. Notice what your anchor points are now that you've hovered your legs. So you're kind of on ribs and pelvis. Go 2 more with the pointing and the flexing. And then flex your feet, hold it there. Hover your elbows, hover your forehead and hands. Pause. Then reach your arms out to a V shape overhead. Point the toes. You're long and reaching from fingers to toes. Think length more than height. And then lower your right arm and left leg with your head. Float them back up and go over to the other side. Maybe the first few you're a little confused. You got to trick your brain into thinking with both sides at the same time. And then when you do that, feel all the new pathways light up. Like little tiny epiphanies in your brain happening right now. Last two. One more time, hold it lifted. That same feeling as when we were in tabletop, kind of challenging oblique line. Bring your limbs into center, and then open them back out wide, like you're swimming through clouds, kind of two more. And then press it out wide to a star shape, last one. Hold it out wide this time. Bring your hands behind your back. Lower your toes to the floor. Press the tops of the feet in. And pull your hands back. Lift your heart forward. Keeping your hands interlaced. Lower your forehead and your shoulders to the mat. Let them round forward. And then pull yourself back up and lift it again. Still feeling like some engagement through the glutes, pressing down through the front of the pelvis. Melt it back down. One more time, lift up. This time, release the hands, place them underneath your shoulders, and press yourself all the way back to a child's pose. And take like 5 or 6 breaths here to appreciate all the width across the low back, all the space through the sides of your body. So really reach with the fingertips overhead. And stay with your breath, just as it is. Allowing the space between your eyebrows to feel heavy on the floor. And maybe even shifting your forehead side to side, kind of massaging it out. Just gently releasing any tension, any holding, any effort in that space. Really gently, you can walk your fingertips over to the left-hand side. Feeling the space between each rib on your right side body. Almost like you could create space. Clear out any cobwebs, any stickiness, and make space for a deeper, calmer inhale. And then crossing through center, moving over to the right. Do the same thing on your left side. Lengthening and clearing out what is no longer serving you to make space for whatever feels inspiring to you right now. We'll take it back into center. Just bringing the palms together overhead and maybe bending the elbows. Just stay here for a breath or two. Noticing anything that comes up, whether it's mentally, emotionally, energetically, physically. Slowly releasing your palms back to the floor and kind of dragging your fingertips along the mat as you slowly roll up through your spine to sit on your heels. And when you get to your knees, hold on to your knees with your palms and round your spine. Feel the back of your body kind of traction open. And then release that and complete the stacking of your spine. So your head comes up last. You can take a few breaths here with eyes closed or gaze unfocused. Sitting on your heels if that's okay for you. And then really gently, you can take your right hand kind of either underneath your thigh or right underneath your shin. And then take your opposite hand over to the side of your head and just kind of gently assist it over to one side. So if you are anything like me or many other people and you tend to carry tension through your neck and your jaw while you're doing a lot of these things, just try to release that, maybe even tilting your chin down towards your shoulder or your armpit. And then let go of your head, stack your spine, go over to the other side. So same thing, let it be gentle and more of a self-assist than a pull or a tug. Maybe tilting your chin down towards the side. And then slowly releasing, hands down by your side. Roll your shoulders down your back a couple of times. And then take a big inhale. Reach your arms up. Grab hold of your left wrist with your right hand. Pull up and over to the side. And we'll feel it's the same familiar space that we felt in child's pose. But this time, almost like you're sweeping across a surface. Move it forwards and over to the other side and pull back up through center. And then grab opposite wrist. And again, a self-assist more than a pull or a tug. I don't know why I'm focused on that word. Take it back around and up the other way. Hold at the top. Both hands comb through the space around you. Hands by your side. Big breath in. And let it all go. Thank you so much for moving with me today. My name is Meaghan, and I look forward to our next time together.